Hello, and here's the news update on NTA International. I'm Elizabeth Omori. Finance Minister and other top officials in Mali have been released by the military junta that ousted President Ibrahim Keita. The minister was among those detained after the military coup on Tuesday. The military junta announced that land and air borders will soon be reopened. They also said they are in contact with opposition groups about starting the process of appointing a transitional president. The World Health Organization and UNICEF have urged African governments to promote the safe reopening of schools during the coronavirus pandemic. They said long closure of schools poses a risk to the future of children and other communities. Only 6 African countries have fully opened schools, according to a survey of 39 countries by WHO and UNICEF. Meanwhile, 208 stranded Nigerians have arrived Abuja and Lagos on the last evacuation flight with Ethiopian Airlines from Newark, New Jersey. The flight manifest includes 87 males, 111 females and 10 infants, with a total of 89 passengers for Abuja and 119 for Lagos. The last flight brought the total number of stranded Nigerians evacuated from the U.S. to 2,322 returnees. Now to security, the Nigerian military says the Air Task Force of Operation Lafiya-Dole has destroyed several Boko Haram terrorist structures, neutralizing several structures of the fighters at Waushale in northern part of Borno State. The settlement was one of those being used by the terrorists as a staging area to launch attacks. Now to COVID-19 update, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control has announced 476 new cases of COVID-19 in 18 states, including the FCT. Nigeria now has 50,964 confirmed cases of COVID-19, with 37,569 discharged and 992 deaths recorded. And those are the stories trending at this hour. Thank you so much for watching.
Race for Government House GRA Benin enters home run. Candidates woo voters as verbal crossfire threatens to spiral out of control. Also on political update today, the Nigerian government focuses on security as 13 billion naira is approved for the takeoff of community policing, ensuring that the nation bounces back in every key sector of the economy. Is on the front burner today. We shall be looking at opportunities in the rural areas. And on the sub-regional level, ECOWAS heads of state and government unyielding in the task to restore Mali to constitutional order, peace and security. We have these and more for you on the program, so strap yourself in and let's set sail. I am Fisayo Ogunfuyi. Welcome. Heads of state and government of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, have resolved to remain steadfast and indeed unyielding in their determination towards the restoration of constitutional order, peace and security in the Republic of Mali. This is contained in a declaration adopted after an extraordinary session on the political situation in the West African nation.
The interactive engagement by the ECOWAS leaders held virtually was informed by the coup d'etat in Mali and its potential consequences on the social well-being, security and economy of the West African nation and the sub-region. The meeting, which lasted about 4 hours behind closed doors, critically analyzed the situation and came up with far-reaching measures on the way forward. Apart from insisting on the restoration of constitutional order as well as the unconditional release of President Ibrahim Keita and all those arrested, the West African leaders also ordered an immediate stoppage of economic relations with Mali. Exceptions are, however, granted to staple foods, fuel and medication for the sake of Malian populace. In the meantime, doors of the ECOWAS leaders will remain opened for continued engagement with all parties to the crisis. They therefore mandated former President Goodluck Jonathan, who is the ECOWAS Special Envoy and head of the mediation mission, to visit Mali alongside the President of the ECOWAS Commission, Jean-Claude Cassibrou, to convey the resolutions adopted at the extraordinary summit. President Muhammadu Buhari and his counterparts commended the ECOWAS chairman and President of Niger, Muhammadu Isufu, for his continued efforts at addressing the political situation in Mali since the results of the disputed parliamentary elections were announced in March.
Determined to improve the security architecture in the country, President Muhammadu Buhari has approved 13 billion naira for the takeoff of community policing in Nigeria. In another development, 16 of the 20 states that have completed their documentation received 1.6 billion naira World Bank grant on COVID-19. This was at the National Economic Council meeting held on Thursday.
Utilization of the funding for the community policing in the states.
Governor Abdullahi Sule, during a media briefing after the meeting held virtually and anchored from the office of the Vice President, recalls the presentation of the National Security Advisor on the state of security in Nigeria in June 2019, and says the concern of the National Economic Council led to the inauguration of an ad hoc committee on security and community policing, headed by Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State.
And the federal government has already approved 13 billion naira for this same purpose, to be used for community policing in Nigeria.
And Vice President Yemi Osinbajo directed the governors, the Secretary to Government of the Federation, the Finance Minister, and the Inspector General of Police to work out how the funds would be utilized to ensure an effective implementation of community policing in the country. On the World Bank stimulus package for states in Nigeria and COVID-19 pandemic, Governor Abdullahi Sule says the institution has approved 35 states in Nigeria, as one of the states is yet to file in its application. Of the first 22 states, 16 have received 100 million naira each, while 5 are on the list for the next batch. Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, in her presentation to the Council, says flooding is the most common and recurring disaster in Nigeria, which is affecting more people and causing more economic losses. She says this is a trend likely to continue.
We are seeking for the support and the guidance of the state government to avert this flood that has been forecasted.
Our council discussed the forex situation in the country regarding the divergence between the exchange rate in the high and low window compared to the BDC rate. The VP suggested and council resolved that the Central Bank Governor and the Finance Minister should engage the NGF, Nigerian Governors Forum's leadership on this issue, especially the concerns of the governors on the monetization rate used for FAC and revert to NEC.
Now, the fallout of the Economic Council meeting gives some insight to the priority of government at this time: security and economic resuscitation after the lean months occasioned by the COVID-19 lockdown. Honorable Reverend Francis Waive, representing Ughelli North, South and Udu Federal Constituency, joins us today on Political Update. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
All right, let's start. 3 main things discussed at that Economic Council meeting. We'll start with community policing. Money has already been released. What are your thoughts on this? It's a long time coming.
Well, I think government has to be commended because this is the way to go. Nigerians have clamored for this, and I have personally moved a motion to this effect on the floor. So I commend Mr. President for this initiative. The next thing is to ensure that these monies are well applied so that it will go directly into community policing, involving the local communities in the act of policing, because security is the topmost issue today in this country. Once we can get our security right, I think every other thing will fall in place. And if we're talking of security, we must be talking about funding for arms such that the enemy will not overpower us with their firepower. So this money is well applied, will go a long way to ensure that we enjoy safety of lives and property again in this country. So we look forward to good implementation such that locals in every part of this country are involved in this process.
In some of the submissions, a lot of people said that if this were to go down well or well orchestrated, there is a need to bring in the traditional institutions, especially since there was existing some form of arrangement policing in those areas before, and such networks with hunters, with some people especially who go into the forest and all that, should find a way to bring them in to the entire architecture so that we have effective policing.
Yeah, there's some sense to that, and I think it will work. But security is such that there will not be one size fits all across the country. In urban areas, there will be different approach, slightly different. In rural areas, it will be different. And then it's community, such that each community will be unique and have its own approach. They know what's the problem. They know the areas where these bandits and terrorists and kidnappers and whoever, they know the areas these things are coming from, such that one would expect that they would apply their funding, their resources to those specific areas, and not necessarily a nationwide template. Otherwise, we'll be falling back into that same trap of a national police force which does not have the community element. So my position is that the community element must be emphasized in terms of personnel, in terms of local problems, in terms of local solutions to these problems. And where traditional institutions can be useful, why not? And where youth organizations, civil society organizations are useful, that would be helpful. I think for the situation in the country today, all hands need to be on deck for us to begin to enjoy safety of lives and property again in our country.
And then moving on, we spoke, before you went back to your constituency, we were talking about the society coming back on an even keel economically after months of lockdown. You were telling us a bit about your area being partly fishermen, agrarian as well. There's a grant from World Bank now that is currently being distributed. How would you want that to take effect, especially in your constituency, and how would it go a long way at least to ameliorate the plight of people at the moment?
Oh yes, grants at this stage is very important. At such stages in history, to reflate an economy needs the injection of funds, and knowing the right areas to inject those funds in is very crucial, and such that small-scale industrialists, small-scale businesses, even individual traders, if they can be identified and funded, it will go a long way to boost the economy and reflate it again. And I think that this is what the World Bank grant is trying to do. One hopes that this will be faithfully implemented, such that people who are really in need and people who have no connections and all that will benefit. In my constituency, for example, Ugele North, Ugele South, and Udu in Delta State, on my last trip, a number of persons had benefited from the COVID-19 NISA fund, which is quite good, quite commendable of government. Such measures should continue to be taken so that before we know it, the economy will be reflated and will not go into recession as happened a couple of years back. One hopes too that the process will be clear and transparent, and then the average Nigerian will have access, and that's the key thing to my mind.
Finally, on that meeting, there was the intervention from the Minister of Nigerian Affairs and talking about flooding. You come from that area at the delta of the Niger, where of course the water would have swollen and perhaps even subsumed some land areas. What is the situation now, and what are you expecting as we build in, of course, August being a peak?
Yeah, I'm from the Delta, and other year, there's always this flooding situation that occurs, particularly for communities on the riverbank and all of that, and even upland, it comes up. Our first advice usually is for those who are that close to flood-prone areas to take precautionary measures such that lives are not lost unnecessarily. And having said that, the move by government is also okay. The challenge really is for this to go around the country evenly, and we hope that the Honourable Minister will ensure that this is done this time, so that relief is brought to the people who are affected, and we trust that that will be done. We believe that experience from previous flooding will come to play, and people who are in those areas will take the necessary precautions, and government will do the right thing.
Sorry to interject. Would we, shouldn't we be looking at issues of perhaps slight relocation, maybe moving further away from the banks? Or if it continues like this, do you come, the flood comes, you go, and then you return, the flood comes again? It becomes a cycle.
The challenge really is your ancestral home is difficult. Where I come from, I live just by the riverbank. That's where I come from. I remember growing up as children, when we go home, you don't go to take a bucket and take a bath. You stroll to the stream, which is like 2 minutes from your house, and you just go there and dive in and have a good bath and come back and enjoy yourself. Now, you want to uproot somebody from that. It's not an easy thing. I was building a house there the other day. I had to make sure I have 7 coaches high because I knew that it was flood prone. So it's challenging. I would like to move away, but it's not an easy thing. It's easier said than done. And then you talk about the challenges of acquiring property elsewhere, land and all that.
Official relocation in a way where you demarcate areas where they can move to, so that because some of these times it doesn't come without its pains when the flood is really intense.
You are right.
Let's move on a bit, because we still have another conversation. Let's take a bit of politics in terms of what is happening right now in Edo State. The APC campaign train has concluded its rallies and sensitizations in the 18 local government areas of Edo State. Let's take that report from Benin.
APC has rounded off its campaigns in the 18 local government areas after its flag off in Benin on the 6th of August. The campaigns commenced in Edo North and Edo Central, Owan East and Akoko Edo.
The billboard in your brain about how you will vote, can they remove it? No! We don't go fight, because we can win our argument any day. They know their time is up, they are looking for trouble. We will give them peace. Is it not shameful? The hospital where Pali they don't build, government go refuse to open up. Not be wickedness with that. By the grace of God, we go open up.
The campaign train was also in Agara in Akoko Edo, Afuze also in Owan East.
Owan East people believe in developmental politics, and he did not display developmental politics, and that is why you are seeing such an enthusiastic mammoth crowd.
Focus, track record, party discipline, and commitment to delivering for the people.
They were also at Unhode, where the people pledged their support for the APC candidate. At Ikbubaoka, the party received defectors.
With this broom, on behalf of the leader of APC Edo State, Comrade Adam Aliyu Osomole, I hand over this broom to this gentleman. With this broom, we are going to sweep away all the debt in this Edo State. We are becoming and supporting Pastor Basege Iseyamo.
The campaigns then moved to Ikiadolo and Iguobazua, all in Ovia Southeast and Ovia Northeast local government area.
Holy Spirit, moving on. Spirit, move over all. Via Southwest be like a place where you don't get government. No road, no hospital, no work, no lights. Anything there for you? Anything there? We go change all of them.
Ovia Southwest, his food is ready. From what I'm seeing, this local government His food is ready.
Edo is a minority state here in Nigerian geopolitics. But the way we can make it to excellence to the top is only by our brain. If we don't have the number, we have the quality of brain. And to build on brains, we must continue to invest in education.
At Oredo, the APC candidate, Pastor Sage Izeyamu, took his message of good governance and moving Edo forward to the people. He urged them to partner with him. The message was not different at Orion local government area, where he promised reviving the College of Education as well as rehabilitation of Bini Abaka Road.
We must create work for anyone. We must create work for Edo. And there are many ways we're going to create it.
Meanwhile, the PDP candidate Governor Godwin Obaseki has visited Edo South Senatorial District to acquaint them with what he calls the Mega Manifesto.
PDP campaign train betted at Sobe, where the gubernatorial candidate Godwin Obaseki was conferred with the traditional title. At Uzaire, the candidate was turbaned by the Oginene.
This election, not be the one for Lai Lai, not be the one for Tok Tok. Show me what you don't do for the people. Our government, this last 4 years, we shown and say we should do something. Look those boys there. They say, Onwa is returnees. These are people when they deceive. They say, walk to Libya. They carry them through deserts. Almost 30,000 of them. By the grace of God, we don't work with EU and many European countries to bring them back home. And as we bring them, that's how we settle them.
The PDP candidate at Oredo promised to improve on the internally generated revenue of the state and provide soft loans to market women.
Have taken it upon yourself to volunteer your time to go from door to door, from store to store, not because of any direct benefit you will receive today, but because of your future. When I come back for my second term, what we have done in our first time will be a joke.
Governor Obaseki also drummed support for his ticket from ward to ward in Edo North.
And then the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has met with the media in Edo State to seek support and partnership to ensure a fair and professional coverage of the governorship election this year and other by-elections yet to be conducted.
The National Electoral Commission, faced with the task of conducting the Edo and Ondo governorship elections and 15 outstanding by-elections within the context of COVID-19, is left with no option than to fine-tune its modus operandi of conducting elections. It has therefore released supplementary regulations, guidelines, and voters' code of conduct, rules of engagement for those on electoral duties. This interface, first with journalists and then media executives in the print and electronic, is part of a series of engagements with all key players. The Commission warns that no acts under any guise should jeopardize the process.
The Commission will not tolerate violence or violent conduct of any manner in terms of the rallies of political parties and their campaigns, and also in terms of what happens on election day.
To further ensure transparency, the Commission has introduced innovations technologically, including the creation of a portal to address media accreditation and other processes. Voters are expected to adhere strictly to guidelines as accreditation and voting are to hold simultaneously beginning at 8:30 in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon.
In this area, there is need to continually educate voters.
It needs the collaboration of everybody that has the interest of Edo State at heart.
All right, action from Edo State there. We have a little bit of the pulpit and the podium in that one. But let's move on. It's a neighboring state. It used to be Ben there. A lot of people have said, yes, it's intense, but the politicians are still being, advised to stick with manifestos rather than crossfire.
Yeah, it's a close fight in those states, but as the only APC rep from Delta, you know I would want my APC party to win. And Isayam is a pastor, so what more do I want?
You're a reverend.
And I want a difference, you know, there should be another difference in this thing. But I would like to appeal to the combatants, as it were now, to calm down. Calm down. Let's play by the rules, and let's ensure that there is peace in Edo State. Let's have a free, fair election that will be credible, and let's deepen our democracy. Let's help this country to move forward, and let's get to celebrate 30 years, 40 years, 50 years of democracy, and let's the dividend of democracy come to our people. We want to serve. That's why we came forward to run for office. So let's run an election that is devoid of violence and all these killings. They're not good for our people.
Now, let's look at the tail end of that. The Umpire 2, is under scrutiny at the moment. This is the first, of course, there was the by-election at State House of Assembly in Nasarawa State earlier in the month. But now we're talking about a big election coming up in this COVID-19 era. We'll be expecting new protocols, of course, to be observed that day. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Everyone is learning. The death toll has been high, both official and unofficial. So we expect that our people will keep to the rules, the COVID-19 protocols, and we expect that those who are in charge will also try to ensure that these protocols are observed. And we hope that God in His mercies, and without playing our role, that will not increase the infection rates and fatalities and all of that. Those who are running in those states, Edo and Ondo, also have that responsibility to ensure that during their race to office, people don't unnecessarily lose their lives.
On a personal note, as a politician, in terms of closeness to people now, is it reduced? Are you finding new ways of reaching your supporters? What do you do, especially with a pandemic that is not going away so far?
I would like to say it will go away soon.
But it's not showing.
But what I've done is that good enough. I'm computer friendly, internet friendly. So my campaign days were all mostly social media and all that. So what we have done at this stage is to intensify that, to try to reach our people by holding meetings by Zoom, by disseminating information by WhatsApp platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all of that. So the use of all social media platforms have increased in this process. And I think it's something that have come to stay as the new normal to reach our people with. And I think going forward, the days of painting everywhere with posters would eventually come to an end.
All right. For the past almost half an hour, we've been with a reverend gentleman who is also an honorable member of the House of Representatives. We're talking about Honorable Reverend Francis Wife, representing Willie North, Will South, and Udu Federal constituency. Thank you very much for coming. May your oil of anointing not get finished. That's a political update for today. Have a lovely weekend and keep it locked on the Nigerian Television Authority, Africa's finest and best and largest, of course, where we give you the very best of news, reviews, previews, and interviews.